You ready?
Yeah, that's no joke.
I'd like to call the November 9th meeting to order. This is the time that we normally have, if anyone from the general public is here. We normally allow them 3 minutes. Seeing no one here, we're going to dispense with that, which is item number 2 on our agenda. And we're going to move on to item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes of our October 19th meeting. We have all had the opportunity to review those minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion, and I will ask for a second for the approval of the minutes.
Make a motion. Sorry. Second.
We have a motion second. Mr. Price made the motion. Ms. Harrell second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Now, item number 4, we're going to call on Mr. Joe Brown. This is the time for the approval of the audits. And Mr. Brown, step forward and let us know what you found and your recommendations, if any, and anything else you might like to tell us.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for allowing us to be of service. We really appreciate it. It's a great place to come up here and do audit work. We know how blessed you guys are with your staff and your management team you have run this place. So it's always a nice opportunity for us to come up here and perform our audit work. We really appreciate y'all allowing us to be of service. I know you got copies of the audited financial statements, but I think y'all may have gotten copies earlier electronically, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you've had a chance to look through those. I will say that you've read in there that we have noted that we a clean opinion on your all's audit again this year. And basically, it's our opinion that the financial statements for both departments fairly present the financial position of Clinton Utilities Board at June 30, 2017. So it was a good audit. Also, pleased to tell you there was no problems or no issues. Also, there were no adjustments made. Your staff does an excellent job. They have the records in good shape when we come in, and we do not have to make any adjustments, and that's really says a lot for them. Also, if you noticed in the financial statements, both departments, the revenues exceeded expenses, which is always a good thing. And it was a good year for both departments. Also, the management and discussion analysis, which y'all have probably looked at too, does a really good job of explaining the changes between years. So if y'all had any questions, I think those are pretty much explained there. This year, there was really nothing unusual or new. So the explanations in there, I think, explain pretty much everything. And it's always good to have a year where there is nothing new and unusual. It kind of makes it easier to get the audit done, and it's easier for your staff to have to not deal with issues and problems. But if you have any questions, Jim and I'll be glad to try to answer those. So again, we really appreciate the opportunity to be of service to you. But if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
I know, of course, we all have had the opportunity to review electronically those, and we're glad to have the hard copies that we can use for reference. Are there any questions in regards to the audits?
I'll add that these audits numbers match what your monthly statements were at June 30th. So
I checked that.
you did.
They did match.
so that's always a good thing, and
UCP,
we
I
strive
thought
for
the same
that.
That's what I said, no adjustments, right?
That's right. That's right. See here?
If the board has no questions, I'd like to ask Joe a question.
Okay.
How long have we known each other, Joe? It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
How come you haven't changed at all?
Hey,
Your hair's not even gray,
hey,
and you have a lot of it.
what you see is not what's inside.
Yeah, well,
I wish nothing had changed inside. I wish I felt as good as I used to, but
it really kind of, it just irritates me.
Don't we all?
yes.
It irritates me a little. We used to go to the corner drugstore when they did the audit years and years ago. We were back at the city, and we would walk to get milkshakes.
And that did us both in.
And it did. We thought we walked that distance, and it took care of the calories.
I
What a
don't think
mistake.
so.
It didn't?
No, it didn't.
Oh, okay.
It didn't. We appreciate you too, and we
Thank you.
appreciate your
Appreciate
team,
you
Jim,
guys.
and we, all that you do. You provide lessons learned in a lot of areas and suggestions and recommendations, and on behalf of the staff, we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, if there are no other questions in regards to the audits, then I will entertain a motion and a second for their approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the audits. Mr. Brown, Jim, thank you all very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed, like sign? Gentlemen, thank you again. We very much appreciate the valuable service you provide for our board. And we look forward to another good year and hopefully another clean audit next year.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to go back up to item number 2. Item number 2 is when that we have anyone that we have from the general public, we allow them to come and give them 3 minutes to basically tell us why they're here, tell us what that, kind of, I guess you'd say, speak your piece. And we had, I think maybe you had not gotten back, so we'd gone on past that. So we're going back to item number 2. And I understand that this is Mr. Philip Dyer. I will tell everyone on the board that. Mr. Dyer, like I say, you have 3 minutes, and if you would, just come on forward here and
First, we're saying good evening, board members, and then CUB employees and whoever else is with us here. I'm calling on concern, I'm here on concern of customer service, we'd say. I had a transformer which was removed from my property, which where I'd been building a barn at the time that, I guess I called, they couldn't give me a definite date on the transformer when it was removed or when they was in there doing the said project, taking it down. It said that they was there cleaning up the system. I've owned the property for 8 years. I own 2 more properties in that area, we'll say another property in that one, and co-owner business in Gibbs Mill Country, store, market, and deli. And the transformer's been removed from the property and saying I have to pay, which is $1,000 to have a commercial transformer set back up. I also was told that they was they was evident they was gonna be electrical hook back up because in the past, and I don't get the date when they said they was out there. But there's a piece of conduit sticking in the ground, sticking up out of the wall. We was gonna put the electric back in there. I'll give it this, at this time, the trees and stuff was green and all this, you could see it perfect. The construction's been going on there for a while since I've bought more property and stuff, and I've been solely doing all this out of my pocket, no loan been took out on this or anything. I feel that I've been neglected by not getting a phone call on the customer service side before they come and took it down. Didn't know that there was policies or a procedure in doing that if it sat dormant for so long. Had no clue on that. Or I would have done the correct thing and put that service active as a temporary. And it's also a lot that was there where mobile home had been there once before. So there's drain field water, everything's there. The pole was actually, all I needed was a phone call, we'd have put it back in active service. Now that being said, didn't I realize the transformer had been down. That thing had sat for years with a secondary wire hanging on it. Noticed it was gone first. I was like, great, they're cleaning it up. That didn't need to be there. It sat live for a long time. The top of it, it's got a fuse in it. The fuse was active. That line was active and stayed there for nearly 6 years or longer. And then the transformer's pulled down, which is up. So it's going to cost me $1,000 to have it put back up because I call it a barn or whatever that it may be. But it was that service that was there for residential service at one time. I ain't asking for nothing. I ain't asking nothing to be done for anything for free. but I would like to have a phone call before it was took down, so I could have made it active. That didn't cost me money in the long run. So that's $1,000, and I wouldn't have built the building there if I didn't have the power there anyway. I'd have built it on the backside of my residence, and that's because it'd been easier to get power to it from my residential part. It wouldn't cost me as much. I've checked into the wire to get there from from my residence. It's going to cost too much for me to do it there. I feel that I've been cost $1,000 out of neglection of a phone call or something as far as that. If it may not get fixed for me, but maybe for somebody down the road or whoever came out there before, that they make sure that they make a call to somebody or go knock on the door and say, hey, we're going to have to take this down because it's dormant. It's not being used. That's my only concerns for the people. You know, for me, I understand that they're not going to put it back up. That's what I've been told, not unless it's a residence. And if it's a residence, which gets put back up for free. So all that takes is going, because everything's there. I could put an apartment in the place and I can get it back up. But I ain't got the money to do that right now. So it's setting me back there as far as building and finishing that up. Like I said, I've got a lot of money sitting on a down payment I put for electric for that business there. And that's fine. I want to do my part. I'm going to be a good customer. I'm going to pay all my bills on time and everything else. So I know it's a little bit informal because I ain't a very formal type person and I feel underdressed. So I appreciate you listening to me. And I'd like to hear some feedback on that, if it's maybe from you all or from CUB in itself, the coworker or the workers that's there, to make sure something's getting resolved, and make sure that there's customer service going out to these customers where that service is there, that we don't have to go through this, for again. Because some people will say, yeah, take it down, but some people in my shoes that wants to use it, that if I'd had a phone call, I'd have went ahead and put it in service. I'd put it in 8 years ago. I'd put it back in service if I know the policies on that. There was no call made, and I would love to have it put back up, but it's got me on hold and I'm running off a generator. So, but I would like to hear something else, further into this. So,
Well, I appreciate you coming. To be honest with you, the board doesn't try to micromanage the utility. I would hope that something, as far as the customer service area, that maybe something could be learned from this. I do know that they are the appropriate people to do that. I ask it, maybe.
well, what I was told on the phone, that you all was the ones that made the decision on getting them took down. The first, that's what they relayed to me. And I said, I don't know.
We may approve policies and procedures, but as I say, the day-to-day operation, we frankly consider that, as I said, micromanaging, and we don't usually get into that.
Okay.
So we would have to refer you back to operations, back to customer service, and to whomever would be the appropriate person to deal with that policy.
Okay. That's great, yeah. But I ain't heard nothing back from them, so I'll get back on the phone with them and talk about it some more, because to me, somebody's not done their job on the front end, because everything was there and everything. I'm just getting a throw around with it, so I figured this is the highest place to go, and I trusted that.
Thank you.
Took care of, so, yes.
Thank you. And I'm sure that Mr. Fay will report back to us as far as the, as far as the.
I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll make a comment now for you, Mr. Dyer, so there'll be some clarity on what your expectations are. We have no expectation at all of making an exception in this situation. I think it's unfortunate. That was inactive for 8 years.
Yes, sir.
It's been really off of that pole for a year. That's really what we do. We have to move our equipment around. I understand that it's a burden on you. I think if it would have been active, I don't know, calculating that up over time, if you had tried to keep that thing active for 8 years, where you would come out in terms of how close you would be to that $1,000 an hour, whenever you're ready to do it. But we don't call everybody when we service our lines out there. And sometimes we don't even know who it is. If we've got a pole out there with a transformer on it and it hasn't had any active service, who do you call? The last person that was involved in that? So we would normally, as we service all of our operational equipment, we wouldn't do that. That some burden then would fall on you, saying my expectation is to to put this in service, and I'm gonna need service, and then we would certainly have tried to work with you.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
but we wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Customer service would not be doing that, nor do I see us doing that in the future.
Nor calling customers.
No, sir, not on that, no, sir.
Okay. And that, you know, and I tried to save CUB money years down the road when I first bought this property, getting the right of way cleaned off that primary line that runs back there. They said they won't deal with it. Well, since then, it's been tore down 5 or 6 times. And that's cost money every time it's come out, time, and actually putting somebody in safety risk and even coming into the job to do that. And, you know, I made that call to get something resolved there, and it's come out, you know, every time. I cleaned it up. You know, there's been times I went out there and pulled that secondary wire and put it back up, and I made a call about that before. But it's okay. You know, I feel I've done my part. To me, I would like to see a phone call for somebody, because it looks bad, because it's put me in a bad spot. You know, not necessarily, I ain't saying, you know, it sat there 8 years, but if I'd have known, it wouldn't have, because I didn't want to pay $1,000 on commercial service. And it wouldn't have sat there 8 years if I didn't have other property coming up and then trying to get that store started and stuff too for my mother, so.
Well,
I
don't think
understand
that we're not sensitive as an individual, because I am. You seem like a very decent fellow, and a good citizen, and certainly a good customer of ours. So it's not like we just want to blow you off. It's not the case. We have with 30,000 customers, we're spread out, as you know,
Yes,
all over.
I understand that.
And the policy is designed to protect the masses. So it's difficult to, nor couldn't we, by contract with TVA, incentivize or help or subsidize one person over another. That's why we are pretty hard nosed with trying to stick with the policy, because then it becomes, who do you know, or how hard do you yell? We don't want to do that. And I know you started out by saying that's not what you're asking for. I really do appreciate that. If we can work with you the best way we can going forward with this, you can rest assured that we will turn ourselves into a pretzel as much as we can to accommodate you.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that. And it ain't, you know, but I've got the other property, and you know, I don't know who's sitting there, but it's higher up, but may heard they pulled their line trucks down the line the easement. I mow that easement. I keep it clean, and it left ruts. You know, I didn't, because I'm gonna build a fence down there in the next year or so. So I mean, I'm sweating the small things, but I ain't the only one that has to go down there, so if somebody comes there and breaks their leg on it or something like that, you know. It's a rough piece of ground. I took that. It don't bother me that much, but that bothered me. And I just wanted, just not to happen to somebody else. That if it's evident that the construction's there and it's going to be put up, because it was evident. I mean, that's what really hurt me more than anything, because everybody's telling me, no, it wasn't there. And the transformer had been moved less than a year. Because I kept up when it was being took down. Sorry about that.
That transformer there just to serve that one customer, that one trailer
Well,
that had
there's
been
2
there?
transformers on property. There used to be a residence there when I bought the property. And since then, I cleaned the property and had a pad cut in for the barn, which I spent nearly $4,000 in getting that pad to have, where I could put I say barn, garage, or whatever that it may turn into, started at that time.
But no one else was impacted by that transformer. It was
No,
just
it was
there.
just, it was there. And it was there, and that was what I took as being there for then on. I honestly, the way I thought I owned the thing. And that's where I was, you know, I was dumb on it. And it's not, and I'm sorry, I would like to, and I know that maybe you can't. And I work for a utility company, and I make sure that if I even pull anything, I make sure I talk to somebody first, just to make sure it's not gonna be, especially, now if they're stealing it, yeah, buddy, you're getting cut off. You gotta pay for what you use.
Right.
But that's where I just felt neglected on it, and I know where I stand at it. But I would like to see something further down the road for somebody, even if it's coming back in on my place or anywhere else. Maybe to call, because that's routine maintenance work. That wasn't emergency work. Routine maintenance. You've been sitting out in the middle of the driveway. My wife come through there. She made a run plumb on top of you. But I wouldn't say that. I mean, you know, that was just they coming up on the property back in the woods and doing their job. And I understand that everybody's got a job to do. So, but I appreciate the time. You know, I know what it's going to be resolved at, but I would like to see something furthermore. And if it has to trickle down from here to there or whatever, and I don't care to talk to some more of them, because I think, you know.
Mr. Dyer, it comes down to me, and that's why I tried to tell
Okay.
you
All right. well,
that's
good.
not happening.
Okay. So, all right, well, I appreciate it.
Just to comment on something that you said, Mr. Fay, because I'd already calculated before you made the comment. To make that line active 8 years ago, I mean, there's gonna be a minimal fee on a monthly basis for that line to be active. I just put in $20 thinking, I mean, just a minimal fee. You calculate that on a monthly basis for 8 years, you're looking at just a little under $2,000.
Yes, I understand that.
And so, and I understand where you're coming from, you know, wanting a courtesy call, but if nobody's using that, if there's not a residence there, how do you know who to give that courtesy call to?
Well, I mean, it's on my property, it's under one address.
But no
So
one's
it's-
using it. No,
Okay.
that transformer is not being used by anyone. My point is, to make that line active for 8 years, if you have to pay the $1,000 to get it put back up, you're still saving money.
Well, I understand
So-
that. I understand it, but I didn't realize it was to, you know, I thought that it was mine, honestly. I was dumb on that. Didn't understand that they owned it. If it's on the pole, you know, secondary, all that stuff.
It must be right-of-way property too.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was in the, I gave them the right of way, or the right of ways there and stuff, and I understand that. I do, and I understand the calculation, you know, yeah, and myself, it's just gonna cost so much to do the work to my house, or I wouldn't even put it back up inside my residence to get it out there. But, I mean, I'm gonna sit without it for a while, just because, I mean. Until I do that, person apartment will be built in there. I mean, and I didn't wanna have to do that, not right now. And I'll eventually need that, and I'll go through the steps to get that.
We
done.
hope that we can, as we work together, as you move forward, that we're gonna provide you excellent service that I think that you would expect from your utility. I truly, personally, hate that we're in this situation
Oh, I
with
do
you
too.
on
And I'm
this.
sure I'm sure it won't be the last time we run into it. I mean, you can tell who's gonna pay and who ain't gonna pay. And I'd honestly feel that I just feel I should have had a call, and that was my concern. And that's, you know, because I'd headed off, put it back in service, and happy go lucky, I'd have been building and framing at this time. Wouldn't be down here talking to you all.
Right,
So,
I understand.
But I do, and I appreciate y'all's time, and I don't know my answer on that, so I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's move on then to item number 5 on our agenda, which is the approval of the vouchers. Again, we've had the opportunity to review those. Any additions, corrections, or comments on the vouchers? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion and a second for their approval.
I make that motion for approval?
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Let's move on then to item number 6. Item number 6 is the approval of the monthly reports for the month of September. And at this time, we will call on Mr. Fagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In front of you, you have the revenue and expense summary for fiscal year through September 2017. September in the electric department was a good month at $306,000, and it was a good month in the water and sewer department also at $36,000. If you look at their year-to-date figures, we're at $754,000 in the electric department. The forecast was $486,000, so that puts us $268,000 ahead of the forecast. In the water department, we're at $34,000. Our forecast was expected a net loss, so we're $38,000 ahead of the forecast in the water and sewer department. Both departments are doing obviously very well at this point. 3 months into it, we'll just see how it goes, though. But I'm pleased so far. I'll put it that way. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless somebody wants to get deeper into it.
And that's the time I'm fixing to say, do we have anybody who's getting deeper into it? Comments or questions? If not, I would like to entertain a motion and a second for the approval of the monthly reports for the month of September.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? All right, let's move on then to item number 7. Pardon me. Item number 7 is our project status report. And of course, as is the custom, the first is to go to Mr. Bowles with the electric department.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start by saying that we've got a lot of work going. We've made a lot of good progress. We're pretty much on budget and on schedule or ahead of schedule with everything that you see. And I won't bore you by going through each one, but I will be happy to answer any particular questions that you may have about these projects or any others that are on your mind.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, if not, then let's move on. The next one should be the water and sewer. We have an ongoing, Mr. Hawkins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any update since last month?
This is,
I know we're still waiting on equipment.
this is an easy one. We're 4 months into a 12-month project, and we're 30% complete, so we're on schedule, on time.
I like that. Any other questions from anyone in regards to the status report for water and sewer? All right, you can see the closing report there. Any questions on that? Assuming that there are none, not hearing any, let's move on to item number 8. That's the recommendation to City Council for the tax equivalent payment. And
I'll be
that's
glad to go
Mr.
in.
Fagan, that would be the one that we would need to direct any questions to.
If it
we
was
have
going
them.
up, I would have taken it, Mr. Chairman.
I
but
know you
since it's
would.
a
I saw it was going down just a
$900
little bit.
credit going the wrong way, Dudley can take full responsibility
That's what
for
I
that.
Hey, I got your back, big guy. I heard that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. General Manager also. Yes.
Each year we have to calculate what our maximum, and I emphasize maximum tax equivalent formula is, which is what we pay based on our year-end numbers. And there's a calculation that was set by the legislature on how this works. And the way it works is you take the net plant, you got your gross plant less your depreciation, which gets your net plant. Your net plant is then you add any materials and supplies that we have in the warehouse. And you take that number and you multiply it times 55%. Now at your house, you're assessed a 25%, but we're assessed a 55%. So that takes the 55%, and then there's an equalization ratio, and that is a big thing. In the equalization ratio, when they do reappraisals, it sets at 1. It can never be higher than 1. So you take your net plant times your 55% times 1. But this year, because we haven't had a reappraisal since 2015, and there's a state equalization board, we don't come up with it, the state does, and that went to 0.9459. So that was a 5% reduction in the amount that a property that is assessed tax. You see what I'm saying? So then that amount is multiplied times the tax rate. The tax rate didn't change, but the equalization ratio changed, which reduces the amount of property that is taxed. And again, this ain't Dudley or CUB or TVA that comes up with this, although TVA checks this and they verified these numbers. This is the state comes up with the equalization ratio, and that is why that number went down, even though we added a lot of plant. And I'm going to show you this just so you can see what I'm talking about. Here are your appraisal ratios, the equalization ratio I'm talking about. Anderson County, 9459 this year. If I look at last year, 2016, 1. You see? And that makes a huge difference when you're talking about the dollars that we deal with. So when you factor that in, despite the fact that we added plant and our plant grew, that equalization, that 5% reduction was more than enough to offset that. And that's why that number ticks backwards a little bit this time. So
I asked Dudley to expand what it normally would say, and you would just look at these numbers, because some of our viewers at other political subdivisions within our service area has had some question about how we do this and how it's done, and the calculation, and the trying to make some sense of the difference of weighted between the taxing districts, where one would get an amount that was greater than the other. And these calculations and how we run through those, it is clearly delineated within the law, and it is checked by us, which we do it, and it is verified by the TVA and then also our auditors. So we've never missed a cent. We've never miscalculated, not a penny, right down to the cent by taxing district. And that's how we do it. That's why we do it. It's the maximum. Should any taxing district care to lower our maximum required amount, we would be happy to recalculate for that for them. But that's how it is, and it is in stone,
Why do we think Norris went up 25%?
because of all of that is based on the plant. And when you're, and that is as you can see, that's a very small taxing district in there. So any plant that we put in there, we have to retire plant, and then we add new plant, and whatever that is, it makes a big difference.
They had a
Did a
lot.
capital outlay job last year to the tune of about 350 or 380,000 that I'm sure impacted.
So what we retire is at the retired rate, which is a very small rate, and then the capital addition that we put in is at cost to put it in. So the difference between those two, and you're only dealing with $10,000, it makes the difference.
Right, the fact that their number's so low made a difference.
Right.
That 5% that got the bigger numbers didn't hit them as bad. So it didn't take as much plant to make up for that. And of course, the city of Clinton, because we are a part of the city of Clinton, they do get the bulk of the county taxes. They also get our revenue less power costs. They get 4% of that. You know, that goes to the counties, and then the city of Clinton, because we are a part of the city, they back our debt. They get 77.5% of that. So
That's all delineated within the formula that's set by the state. Essentially, each taxing district gets, and it's specific by taxing district, and what Dudley showed you, it has by taxing district and county associated with that. And then we know what the maximum is. Each one of those taxing districts gets their apportionment, and then the remainder of that goes to the owner, which is Clinton.
I had a question. I know sometimes when you get money from various sources, it kind of has a requirement for how it needs to be spent. When these cities and counties get this money, is there any requirement on how it has to be spent, or does it just go to them?
it goes to them, and
Okay.
Look at it like a property tax.
Yeah.
Do you see that? And that's essentially,
It is a payment in lieu of
Yeah.
taxes.
Right.
Yeah, I was just curious to see if there were any strings attached to
no,
that money.
none whatsoever.
Okay.
And we recommend that the board approve this
That's
calculation.
what I was going
Right.
to say, is we will need a motion and a second to recommend the ratification of our tax equivalent payments to the various municipalities. And I'm asking at this time for a motion and second to that effect.
I make that motion to accept the tax rate.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? Let's move on to item number 9. Mr. Fay, other
Thank you,
business.
Mr. Chairman, two things. Number one, if you would mark your calendars, I know this board gets very little remuneration for the time spent volunteering here, but the free lunch at Christmas time is our way of trying to make up for the disparity in what you receive. And now our Christmas lunch is set for the 5th of December, and you all are welcome to attend that. You should be getting an invitation. We'll send a little card out, but it'll be at noon on Tuesday, December the 5th, if you would mark your calendar.
Be at the beach.
And if you will send pictures, that would really be great. Right, that would be great.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Miss Harold. We're all going with Charles.
I do have some sad news. We had an employee here who has been here, several years. She was just a fine person and a fine employee, and she went in for a preemptive procedure. Apparently, there was some genetic abnormalities found within her family, and they went and got checked, and she had which required some surgery for her. And this Monday night, I think Monday, she went in, and it didn't go well. It's not me. That's not me, right? It didn't go well, and the complications dominoed, and she didn't survive the surgery for this preemptive thing, and I just wanted to share that with you. Dudley, do you want to say anything?
She was a really good person. She'd retired from KUB in customer service, and we asked her if she wanted to work part-time in 2012, and she did, and eventually she wanted to come back full-time, and she did such a good job. We put her on full-time, and because of her maturity and all, she was good for those girls up front, and we'll miss her. Judy Norton.
Judy Norton.
Lived in Maryville, drove from Maryville every day.
Just a good person, and there is a hole in our staff because she filled a great place. So I want to share that with you because it's just a loss that we're all dealing with, and that, sir, is all that I have.
Okay. Mr. Price.
Nothing more?
Ms. Harold.
I have nothing.
Well, how about Ms. Vaughn?
I have two comments.
Yes,
First
ma'am.
of all, I was so impressed when we got our magazine. I know you all got that too, but our own Mr. Greg Fay was right there in the front of that, and I just thought that's always good when Clinton, any part of Clinton, gets some kind of positive PR, and I think that's very positive. And I think the article that I know we all read, but it had some points in there, and sometimes you have to take a stand on what's right, and Mr. Fay is doing that to try to help all of us. So I told him I was going to bring my magazine so he could autograph it for me. But anyway, I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
and the
Thank you
role
so
that you
much.
take in community to do that. So thank you for representing us so well. And the other thing is, it was fun to be part of hearing our audit. I've had the pleasure of working with this company for several years while I was director of schools, and they're good people. But anyway, the audit is not just a one-time event for a few weeks of your life. It is a 12-month event, and I would like to compliment Mr. Fagan, because I think he's the overseer of the money and the finances, and we come every month and see what he's done, and I know it's a family and it's a team that makes that happen, but he's the number person, and I think for him to get us to this point, and it sounds like he's got us to this point year after year after year. So
Thank you.
on behalf of the board, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, for me to say
Absolutely.
it, thank you for
Thank you.
what you've done number-wise for us.
He had a really good teacher.
Who's expert? whose expertise is only exceeded by his humility. That is correct.
Team effort, I guess.
You stole my thunder. I was going to say something to that effect, but hey, I'm now speechless. Unless there's something else, this meeting is adjourned.